obviously, we can't end this report without going over what the Catholic Church in particular has had to say about this whole business over the years. Hopefully, I've made it pretty clear so far that contraception is just a bad thing. But it's not until you dig deep into the Catholic tradition, into the richness of her deep theology, that you understand contraception to be something revolting. Now, the first time, I think, that the Church explicitly condemned contraception was with the release of the papal encyclical Casti Connubii, which is translated of the sanctity of marriage. Pope Pius XI wrote this encyclical in 1930 in response to the Anglican Church's decision that contraception in some cases was fine. Now, the Anglican Church was the first to say this, but like all of the other Christian denominations, or most of them, followed suit soon after. So the Pope made this encyclical saying like, no, bad, don't do this. The encyclical exalts the sanctity of marriage, and it reaffirms the purpose of sex and sexuality to be procreation and union, but mostly procreation. And it also condemns contraception, eugenics, and also mentions a bit about abortion. But the next big teaching, probably the better known one, definitely the more controversial one, was Humanae Vitae, translated of human life. Pope Paul VI wrote this encyclical in 1968, so well into the sexual revolution, when all the false philosophies were really taking root. So the Pope got a lot of flack for this. It basically reiterates in a different manner what Casti Connubii says and gives a little bit more insight. Near the end of his encyclical, he gives a series of warnings of what contraception will lead our society to become. And basically, they happened. Listen to this.
Responsible persons can be still more easily convinced of the solid grounds on which the teaching of the Church in this field is based, if they stop to reflect upon the consequences of the methods of artificial birth regulation. Let them consider first of all how wide and easy a road would thus be opened to conjugal infidelity and to a general lowering of morality. One does not need much experience to know human weakness, and to understand that human beings, especially the young, who are so vulnerable on this point, have need of encouragement to be faithful to the moral law, and must not be offered any easy means of evading its observance. It can also be feared that the man who becomes used to contraceptive practices may finally lose respect for the woman, and no longer caring about her physical and psychological equilibrium, come to the point of considering her a mere instrument of selfish enjoyment, and no longer as his respected and beloved companion.
He not only knew what would happen personally and socially, but he also knew what effects this would have on the government.
Consider also the dangerous weapon which would thus be placed into the hands of those public authorities who have no concern for the requirements of morality. Who could blame a government for applying as a solution to the problem of the community those means acknowledged permissible for married couples in solving the family problem? Who will stop rulers from favoring and even from imposing upon their peoples, if they should consider it necessary, the method of contraception that they judge to be most efficacious?
Insight! But I think everyone will agree that the greatest and most recent teaching on contraception, sexuality, marriage in general, I think you know what I'm about to say, don't you? The theology of the body! Saint Pope John Paul II gave a series of 129 lectures between the years of 1979 and 1984. Now, you've heard me talk about this before, several times already, but yes, I am going through the crash course of the theology of the body. It's called Naked Without Shame. I have a link below, and I have in several videos before. It's just really, really good. Now, I have been listening to this crash course since February, intermittently, and so I don't actually remember any quotes or pieces that I can give you, but I have retained enough and know enough about this work to say with utmost certainty that the theology of the body is the most incredible, eye-opening, marvelous work that has yet been made, probably ever will, about the mysteries of sex and marriage and the family and its beauty. Seeing sex through the eyes of the Bible and ecclesiastic teaching and everything that we've collected so far in church history, it exalts sex and compliments it so much higher than anything of this world could compliment it. And it makes it so obvious why it is necessary to enshrine that union within the sacred promise of marriage and to treat it only with the utmost of dignity and honor and reverence. But because there are so many interlacing marvels of our bodies and how they're designed and what they represent that the Pope shows in the theology of the body, you could really see how the union between the faithful husband and wife is the closest analogy that we have, even though it's not by a long shot even nearly close. It's the closest analogy that we have of the sacrificial, total, selfless love between Christ and his church. And that's the same level of perfect sacrificial union that Christ will have with each one of us individually when we reach the level of heavenly perfection and we are in a state such that we can enter into this union. For people who glimpse at these mysteries, it becomes disgusting and abhorrent, even the mention of contraception. The thought of deliberately intercepting that beautiful flow of love. It just crumbles the beauty of the theology of the sexual union. It crumbles the theology and it crumbles the analogy of Christ and his church, because you're not going to block the love between Christ and his church. And it's just really sad and sometimes a little bit despairing to see how much today's society misunderstands and misuses this beautiful, beautiful gift. So anyway, that ended on a sad note, but to take away, the Catholic Church has a lot of great information about contraception that you should definitely read, and the theology of the body is amazing. You should definitely listen to that crash course that I have linked below. Or if you're super theologically advanced and have a nice philosophical mind, read it. See you guys tomorrow with my final video. Goodbye!